Hello everyone and welcome back to the course on Tableau. In this session we're going to be diving into an exciting new type of a visualization, and that is geographic. Geographic visualizations have two different types. One are field maps, the other ones are symbol maps. In this session we're going to be taking a quick look, and it's going to be really quick, at field maps because they're really easy to do and they don't take much time at all. So let's dive right into it. What I want you to do first is to head on over and create a new sheet. Let's just click on that. Okay, we have a brand new sheet here and we want to create a field map. And let's go ahead and double click the state field. Since we can see that this is a geographic type, we want to use it for our map. So let's go ahead and click state, and automatically Tableau will generate a map view for us. Now these two fields up here, longitude and latitude, are automatically generated by Tableau, and this is data that Tableau actually has, and it pulls it and gives us this view here. The state on the actual detail is what tells us which longitude and latitude coordinates we want to use. So when we specify the state, we see all of the different states within the US. And the reason that we see that there's New Brunswick and Nova Scotia here in Canada, and we see a little bit of Mexico down here as well, is because Tableau also owns this data in terms of where it pulls it from. So it's going to automatically give us this information even though we're not using it, and it's just going to be grayed out, and that's because we have our states on detail. So we're already specifying the information that we're working with. Now the next thing that we're going to do here is we're going to give a little bit more detail as usual. We're going to drag our sales field here and drop that on color. Okay, and what that's going to do is give us filled map, which is nothing more than showing us the filled different states, right, along with giving color on the sum of sales. And the darker the color, the higher the sales. So just at a first glance, we can see that in the Midwest region here, we kind of have an average, whereas on the extremities of the states, up here in Washington, California, Texas, as well as New York, we can see that the sales are definitely higher than the rest of them on average. So that's just a quick way to show us a filled map, and look, it took us about 2 minutes to get this thing done, and it's actually really cool the way that it works. So furthermore, we can see that our sum of sales starts at this light blue color at 920 and ends at this 457,688 up at the top. Now it's pretty evident in terms of the color differences, but in this area we can't really see the different values just by looking at the color. So of course we have them on tooltip, so let's go ahead and take our sales again and drop that on a label so that we can see the individual sales per state, and that's acting as a complement to our colors here. So that's basically a very basic filled map. The next thing that we're going to be taking a look at here are symbol maps. And the only way that symbol maps really differ is that the marks on this type of a map are not drawn as filled regions, the way that we have filled regions here. The marks are actually shapes and symbols that are placed at specific geographic locations across the map, and the size, color, and shape may be used to encode additional dimensions or measures within the view. So let's go ahead and try creating one of those. What I want you to do here is just leave this as it is. Let's go ahead and click a new sheet, all right, and let's go ahead and create our symbol map. So what I want you to do is to, first things first, let's double click on the postal code, which is a geographic, and we'll automatically see we now have a bunch of points on our map, and we see that they're now in symbols, which are actually circles, all right, across the map. So instead of seeing the actual filled style that we saw before, we are now seeing a pointed style where each one is actually showing individual postal codes within geographical regions. And again, we're using longitude and latitude to let Tableau know where these postal codes actually exist, and the postal code, since it's on the detail, it's going to show up here. And since we left it on automatic, the circle is the actual mark type that we're seeing here. Next, let's go ahead and take our sales and drag it from the measures to the size shelf on the actual marks. So let's take sales, we're going to drag it onto size, and automatically we can see that our map changed a little bit in that the sum of sales is now dictating the size of each circle, whereas each circle is actually a point on the map in terms of zip code locations. Next, let's go ahead and drag the profit from the measures to the color shelf on the marked card. So we're going to just take that and drop it onto color. And now we can see not only do we have the size of the circle dictating the sum of sales for that postal code, right, we also have colors and differentiating colors that give us an additional added detail within our map. Now, just like we edited the axis and showed the different sizes of the lines in our previous example, we're going to do something very similar here just to provide additional detail and to show a much better version of this view. Now, just to note here, the reason that this view is so useful here is because we now have taken the mark's color and corresponded it to the sum of profit. So now, not only can you see the sales at the geographic location, you can now see the profit of sales as well. And it's useful because you'll be able to see that some locations with high sales and low profits will require some action. So an example of this is a location with a large circle. Since our sum of sales is on size, we can see that a large circle which had a lot of sales and a lower profit, which means a lower area of this range, will have a large circle with a darker orange color. So we can see here in postal code 32216, which looks like Florida, we saw a low profit of minus $2,446, whereas our sales were $39,000. And furthermore, if we were to look at a smaller circle than this that was actually blue, right here in Oklahoma, we can see that sales were $5,557 and the profits were a little over $1,500. All right, so it's really important to have the differentiator here and explain that when you're displaying this to your users or even for yourself. It's important to understand that the sum of sales is dictating the size of the circle, whereas the sum of profit is dictating the color. And that's what I meant by adding additional information within a symbol map. You can kind of dictate and drive your view to look like very, very interesting information here. Right, so let's do a little bit of adjusting here. Let's take these circles and make them a little bit bigger so that some of these smaller details can pop out a bit more. And you can always pick whatever you think is best, but I'm going to bump them up to around right over here, and that makes everything very, very visible. We have a little bit of a small circle here in Idaho. Let's go ahead and make that a little larger. All right, yeah, so that looks pretty good. We can kind of get a strong feel for what's going on within this map right now. Now, another thing we can do here, since we have all of the different marks and circles overlapping one another, it might get hard to try to notice all of the different values. So what you can do is you can actually change the opacity, or the transparency rather, of these different circles. And the way that you can do that is just head over to the marks card, hit the color button here, and you can edit the colors as well as the opacity. So let's drop this opacity down a little bit, and you'll start to see that these get lighter and lighter. Let's drop this somewhere around the 75% mark, or 78 is fine. We'll just leave that right there. All right, so now it's a little bit more apparent that there are some pieces of information behind these larger circles, so they're not hidden behind the circles here. Now, unlike filled maps, symbol maps allow you to use size to visually encode different aspects of the data. And symbol maps also allow for greater precision, so you end up with a much finer level of detail in terms of the colors and the way that they fade into one another. And that can get kind of confusing because it gets hard to see the difference between a light orange and an even lighter orange. And the way that we can edit this is to make these colors a bit more deliberate in what they actually mean. And let's go ahead and do that. The way you want to do that is to go up to Sum of Profits legend here, click this drop down and hit Edit Colors. And the way we want to do this is, since we are using stepped colors here, we are using a full gradient range. So we're currently at 5 steps. All right, so you can see that orange is this color, and then it gets lighter, darker, and darker. If we were to drop the number of steps to 4, we can see that orange now covers a larger range of values, whereas if you were to go up, orange covers a smaller set of values. So let's go ahead and drop this down to 4 and have orange cover a larger area so that these lighter oranges and these really, really light blues kind of give a better picture. And we can always change the types of colors we want as well to give a better example. So instead of blue and orange, we can always go to green and gold, which is the example I'll use here. So we can see that the highest value here for the sum of profit on color is that a very dark green, 21,654, whereas a range for a not so great profit would be negative 7,299, and it covers this entire range. So let's go ahead and hit apply here, and we automatically can see that there's more green on this map than yellow. Okay, it's kind of hard to see that in the other view because we had so many ranges of yellow, whereas in this case we have just one box attained for yellow and the rest are all green. So we can see that there's more green, so our company is indeed making profit. All right guys, so this looks pretty dang fantastic here. Let's go ahead and give this sheet a very useful name. Let's go ahead and right click that, go to rename, and you can rename this anything you'd like. I'm going to name mine Geographic Sales. And that will automatically give us a nice view here. Let's go ahead and edit this a bit, and you can format this however you'd like. I'm going to take a second and do that here. I'm going to make this a dark blue, all right, and I'm going to give this background a different color as well. So I will go here and I will go to Format Title, and we can give a shading here to light blue, or we can make it orange even to our view here, which is green and yellow. It kind of matches a bit better. So we'll keep that view now, and what I want you to do is to also don't forget to rename your sheet too and give a valuable name here. So what I can name this one is sales filled map. Alright, now that we have that, we can also do the same thing. Go ahead and format this a bit. Let's make this dark blue. We're going to center this, and we can actually make this one bold and apply that, and we will do the same thing here. Make this bold and apply that. This is looking pretty solid. Now the other thing I want you to do is to make sure you save your progress while you're working along here. The last thing you want is to work through all these examples and for it to go away. So we'll call this geographic views, and we'll go ahead and save that to our Tableau public profile here. Now guys, I know the next sector is going to be on dashboards, but before we get there, if you saw the course curriculum, you already know this, it's coming, but if you haven't, it's going to come as a surprise to you, and that is that we have a challenge coming up. Alright, and that's where I want you to create your very first worksheet all on your own. I'm not going to spoil it here, but I have some requirements for you that I want you to handle. So I'm going to pass those along to you in our next session, and we're going to review the results. And right after that, we're going to build the dashboard out of everything. I thought this is a great time to enter a challenge into the video sessions here, because it's a great checkpoint for you to see whether you're picking up everything in Tableau, and if not, you can follow along and we'll handle it no problem. Alright guys, so that being said, I will see you in that section here, and I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you guys made great sense of this and experimented with this geographic sales map here, and I'm very excited to see what we have coming up. So I'll see you guys there. Cheers.